All right, so law of cosines. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to write out the formula. You're all going to freak out, and then I'm going to explain it to you, and we're all going to calm down, just like usual, okay? So a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. Usually happens when I write that is everyone's like, we have to memorize that. Listen, there's only 3 sides to a triangle, so there's only so much trouble you can get up to. And here's the way I remember it. Can you watch me point to this? These two right here, B and C, match up with these two right here. Do you see how we just repeated them? All right. And whatever side you had at the beginning is the angle you have at the end. So that's how they match up. Are you guys following me there? I'll take heads nodding. So these match up. Do you remember the area formula that we did where I said there's 2 other versions of it if you just twist the letters? Well, good news. I have problems on it on the other side of this paper, so we're going to review it. If you just twist the letters around, it means the exact same thing. So I don't want you to think of these as 3 totally different pieces of information. It's just we can change the letters around. So the other version of this, one of them, b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus, and then what do you think? If I just take these and repeat them, yeah, 2ac cosine b. That matches the one at the beginning. And then there's a third version of it. Again, it just depends on what letters you were given. What would the third one be? Yeah, c squared equals, yep, a and b, a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. I'll tell you what normally happens. No one has any trouble remembering that. Like it just goes well. I'll tell you what the common mistake is people put sine instead of cosine. And that boggles my mind because it's called the law of cosines. And people will put sine there instead of cosine. I'm like, what are you doing? Anyway, memorizing it is never usually an issue. But it is for these 2 patterns, side angle side and side side side. I wrote that up on the board, but I'm just putting it here on the paper so it shows up on the video. So this is for these 2 patterns, okay? So we're gonna do a few problems. Go ahead and draw number 1. You always want to start at the bottom left, then go to the bottom right, then go to the top. That's how you always want to leave it. So what letter, A, B, or C is gonna go in the bottom left? A, that's the one we have, 61 degrees. I don't have baby A. And then I have both of the other sides, so actually kind of doesn't matter what goes down here. I'm just going to go alphabetical. This will be B, across from that is 4. Up top will be C, across from that is 6. We're not at the calculator stage yet. Hold on. Then you want to decide what pattern you have. So which pattern is this? Do you guys see how the angle is in between the 2 sides? Okay, because it's not side, side, angle. All right, side, angle, side. So that's what tells us we want to do law of cosines. That's like, hey, that's the pattern that you have. So off to the side here, let's list out what we're missing. We're missing little a. And then out of B and C, the angles, which one's smaller? B, here's where it matters. If you do them out of order, you're not going to get the right answer, right? Why is B smaller? Because I heard somebody say B. 4 is smaller than 6. Okay, so this is the order we're going to find everything in. So which version of this, let's call it the first one, the second one, or the third one, which version of this are we going to use? The first one, because A is the angle that we have, okay? So it's going to be a squared equals 4 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 4 times 6. You just repeat those. Cosine of 61. Now here's where we're going to reach for the calculator, but hold on a second. It's a squared equals. So how do you undo a squared? Perfect. So what you want to type in your calculator is square root of all of that. Okay. So yes, it's a lot of button pushing, but just, copy it straight from the paper. So you're going to type square root of all of that, and it will just give you the answer. So yeah, it's kind of annoying to type, but just don't make a mistake typing it and you'll get the answer. Is anyone feeling brave? Want to share before I hit enter? And the way you can kind of check your work is the other sides were 4 and 6. You would want a number fairly close to 4 and 6. Like if you got 27, you would hopefully be like, hey, wait, that's not going to work. All right. Did you get 5.359? All right. Hurry, quick, capture it before it gets away. How do I capture it? So, good. Store alpha A, enter. Store alpha A, enter. Store alpha A, enter. Then you can clear it out and we can move on to the next thing. So what's the next one we're trying to find? B. Now you can do law of sines because you now have a side across from an angle. That's why we couldn't do law of sines before. You didn't have a side across from an angle, so it wouldn't work. But now you have it. So let's set up our law of sines. We'd have 5.359 over sine of 61. They go across from each other. And I know I wrote 5.359, but we're going to use the copy and paste feature in our calculator, right? If you type 5.359, it won't be accurate enough. All right, equals, and then look what you're trying to find. What's going to go on the other side? Well, 4 over sine B. Perfect. Now, it's been a minute since we typed this, so listen to me. I'll explain to you how to type it. We're looking for an angle. So what do we need to type first? Yeah, and that's sine inverse. All right, so hit sine inverse because you're looking for the angle. You have to undo the sign. It's like anti-sine. And then you're going to cross multiply and divide. So it'll be 4 sine 61, close parenthesis, divided by alpha A. Again, don't type 5 point blah, blah, blah. Use the copy paste. That's why you stored it. And when you hit enter, you will get your answer. And can anyone confirm? Did anyone get? Okay, perfect. If I don't hear complaining, I'm going to assume you got it. And then quick capture it. Hurry, quick, get it before it gets away. Hurry. We're going to store this one as what? B. Store alpha B, enter. Store it as what you found it. I mean, it's angle B, so store it as B. You can't do lowercase letters on the calculator. They're all uppercase. But once you've got it stored, you can clear that out. And I don't need to do any more writing. How can I get my last angle without having to write anything else down? 180. Good, perfect. 180 minus. So it's 180 minus 61 minus alpha B, and that will give you the last one. All right, let's try it again. So go ahead and draw yourself a triangle. It's not going to be to scale because if you notice that angle is 121, that would be obtuse. You can draw it to scale if you want. I've actually never had anyone want to do that. It's just not worth it. Like you have enough other things to worry about, right? Put that in the bottom left. So B 121 goes in the bottom left. We don't have baby B, which again, that's why you can't do law of sines. You don't have the two across from each other. Across from angle A, we have 5. Across from angle C, we have 3. Those two, it kind of actually doesn't really matter where you put those because we don't know either of them. But again, what's the pattern? Yeah, do you see how the angles in between? Side, angle, side. So this one is going to follow similarly like the one we just did. So if you do feel confident and want to work ahead on me on this one, that's okay, but just make sure your answers are right. Okay. So we are missing, make our little list over here. We're missing baby B. And then these do have to go in order. You have to do smallest to biggest or it will not work. So which one's smaller, A or C? C is the next one. Good. And so you're going to want to use the version of the formula that has angle B in it. So this one, the second one. So it is going to be B squared equals 5 squared plus 3 squared minus 2 times 5 times 3. You just repeat those. They just get written again. Cosine of 121. And you kind of can't mess up which angle it is because it's the only angle you have. And then again, to get that, you want to type square root of everything. Now the other sides were 5 and 3. This one will be slightly larger than both of those. And how do I know that? Like I'm expecting a number kind of bigger. Yeah, 121 is a great big angle. So if the other ones are 5 and 3, like this one's going to be bigger than that. I got 7.032. Okay. Store that as B. Again, you can't do lowercase letters on here, so you kind of just have to go with it. And then once you have it stored, you can clear that out and set it aside. Once you've got it captured, you're good. Now we have a side across from an angle, so we're going to set up law of sines. It'll be 7.032 over sine 121. And then what's going to go on the other side? Yeah, good. 3 over sine of C. Perfect. You have to hit second sine because you want the angle. And then you're going to cross multiply and divide. So 3 sine 121, close parenthesis, divided by alpha B. Make sure you use the copy pasted one. If you just type 7 point whatever, it won't be accurate enough. Why does she keep harping on about this? Because those of you that go on to AP Calculus, they won't give it to you. The answer won't be accurate enough. Do you get that? Okay, cool. And then you store it, store alpha C, enter, because that was C. And then you don't have to do any work for the last one. You can just subtract from 180. All right, so 180 minus, what are the other two? Good, 121 and C. I'll give you what's left. So that one's kind of smaller. Actually, both of those were pretty small. All right, these last two, you can actually figure out the pattern without drawing the triangle, but I give you a point for drawing the triangle on the test, so that's an easy point to get. What pattern is this? Yeah, draw it anyway. And it really doesn't matter where you put any of the angles because you don't have any of them anyway. But I'm going to give you a point on your test for doing that and writing SSS. So you're welcome. Like, just do it because I'm going to give you a point for it. But it's side, 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 which means law of cosines. And you have to find these in order. So which one are we finding first? A is first. Good. And then C is in the middle. And then B is the largest one. So if we're going to find A first, which version of this, the first, the second, or the third, are we using? Yeah, do you see how the first one has an angle A in it? All right, so that's the one that we're using. As a heads up, don't work ahead of me on this. This one is actually a little bit more writing. I'm sorry about that. You'll be okay, but don't work ahead of me. All right. A is, what's A? 4. So we'll have 4 squared equals 10 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 10 times 8. And again, those just get repeated. See, when I write out the formula at the beginning, I know it like it looks like a lot, but you've probably already accidentally memorized it. After you do it a few times, it's like, oh, those just get repeated. And then cosine of A, because that's what you're looking for. So when you have to get A by itself, you have to actually work the rest of this out. It's like solving it is solving an equation. All right, so we're going to have to actually do this problem. So 4 squared is 16. 10 squared is 100, 8 squared is 64. So together, 164 minus 2 times 10 times 8 would be 160 cosine of A. And here is the common mistake. Please let this not happen to anyone. People will do 164 minus 160 and put 4. The reason you can't do that is because these are two separate terms and they're not like terms. Instead, what you have to do is subtract the 164 to the other side. Don't put those together. You're going to subtract it over. And it'll end up being negative. It'll work out that way every time. I got negative 148 equals negative 160 cosine A. They will both be negative every time. And that's okay because negatives cancel out. So to get the cosine by itself, what would you do with this? Yeah, divide. I would just write it as 148 over 160. That reduces, but who cares? Because how are you going to type this? Like to get the answer answered. Because you want an angle. Good. Inverse cosine. So second cosine, 148 over 160. So I don't bother reducing it because the calculator is just going to do it for you. And so that's angle A. And so store that as A. Oh, whoops. Not like that. I messed up. I have to bring it back. There we go. I mistyped something. Once you get it stored, clear it and set it aside. We're done with that for a second. Now you have a side across from an angle. We have this one. Okay. So now you can do your law of sines. It'll be 4 over sine of what we just got there. Bless you. You would rather do law of sines than law of cosines because it's way shorter. All right, so 4 over sine of A, at 22 point whatever, equals, now look at your list. What's the next one you're trying to find? C. So what was baby C? 8. So it'll be 8 over sine of C. So how am I going to type that one? Yeah. Second sine, good. And then 8 sine of A, good, close parenthesis. Don't type 22 point blah, blah, blah. Use your copy and pasted version. Divided by 4. And that will give you your answer. Did we get a number bigger than the one we just found? Yeah, you're finding them smallest to biggest. So make sure you get a number bigger than what you just found. Capture that one. And then you don't have to do any work for the last one. Why not? I'm done working. Perfect. You're going to do 180 minus alpha A minus alpha C. And that should be the biggest one. Again, we found them smallest to biggest, so that should be the largest. You with me here? Lou, you cannot hide from it. We'll find you. Anyone want to share? What did you get for the last one? Okay. Oh, wow. That was a lot bigger than the other two. 108.209. We'll finish this one and then we'll do our middle of the class break. Okay. You can see that it's side, side, side before you even start, but I'm going to give you a point for drawing it on the test. So just draw it and write side, side, side. You should also notice something else about this one. Good. And what do we call a triangle where two of them are the same? Isosceles. There we go. Isosceles. You should actually be really happy about that. Why is that a good thing? Why would you be like, hey, that's, yeah, like once you find one, like it's gonna be less work. You get what I'm saying? Less work. All right. So let's make our list. What's the smallest? Either B or C. It really doesn't matter because they're going to be the same thing. And then A will be last. Go ahead.
If you do angle A first, could you then do 180?
You have to do smallest to biggest. And the reason why is And we'll talk more about this later. What, like, I can't really fully explain it until we get to some other topics. But there are always two options for an answer, and the calculator is programmed to give the smaller one. So if you try to do them out of order and get the biggest one first, the calculator will not give you the right answer. Because technically there's two options for the answer, and I'll explain that more later, but because we kind of didn't get to that yet, but it's programmed to give you the smaller one. All right, so which version of this formula do we want? Yeah, or C, right? Like, I mean, either the second or third one, it really doesn't matter because they're going to be the same number. We're going to find B. All right, so it'll be 10 squared equals what? 12 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 10 times 12. They just get repeated. Cosine of B. Perfect. Now, when it's side, 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 you have to do a little bit more work. You'll be okay. It's not hard and you have a calculator, but you just have to write it out. 10 squared is 100. Oh, those of you that don't like doing work, there's many of you in here. That's why I'm saying it. Did you hear me when I said you have to do work? Okay. Equals. All right, 12 squared. That's 144 plus 100 is 244. And then this would be minus 240 cosine B. Do not subtract these. That's the common mistake. Instead, what do we do? Yeah, and it will be negative. Actually, that'll be negative 144. But it's okay that it's negative because it's negative on the other side and they'll cancel out. And I know the fraction will reduce. I never bother with it though. I would just write 144 over 240 because I mean, like, why? Why bother reducing it? You're going to just type this in anyhow. And I have good news for you. We're actually done having to do any writing for this one because two of the angles are the same. The rest of it's going to be within the calculator. All right. How will I type this? Inverse cosine. Good. 144 over 240. So that's this one. But it's also C. And I'm going to store it as B. It really doesn't matter. You could store it as B or C. But how can I get A? Once I store it, I can clear this out. But how can I get A? Yeah, you could do minus B, or you could do minus 2B. Either way, that'll give you the last one. You're just subtracting it twice. So side, side, side is kind of the one that has the most work to it, like written work. They all have a lot of work in the calculator, but side, side, side is the longest one as far as writing. But it's still not even that bad. What is that, like 4 steps? You'll be okay. So we're going to review the two area formulas that we had. I'm going to write out just the first version of one, and you can tell me if you remember this or not. 1/2 AB sine of C, but you can jumble the letters. So what's like another version of that? Good, 1/2 BC sine A, or you could have 1/2 AC sine B. Do you get what I'm saying? They're all the same thing though. Don't try to view them as different pieces of information. And I'm going to change this. I didn't mean for this to be this. Can you make this instead of angle A, make it little a is 5 so we can actually use one of those formulas because otherwise it's not going to work. So the version of that we would do would be 1/2 AC sine of B. So just go ahead and set it up. It's 1/2 times 5 times 7 sine of 35. And literally you just put that in your calculator. And I'm just going to verbally go over this. If, for example, the units were feet, what are your units for an area? Feet squared. Good, because it is 2-dimensional. Okay, let me show my calculator. And I didn't hear any complaining, so I'm gonna assume we were okay.
I almost did that too.
Don't do that. 3 decimal points.
Oh, well, no, I mean, 0.5 when I multiplied 1/2.
You can do that.
Yeah, I know, but I started doing that.
Oh. All right, and then this one is called Heron's formula. When you have all 3 sides, you find this S value. It's 1/2 A plus B plus C. So you just add them all together and do half of that. So you can type that in and see what you get. I got 17.5. And then your area, and this geeks me out. I can't believe this works. Your area is this great big square root, and you take that number. And then what I usually do is just draw like 3 more blanks. You take that minus A, that minus B, that minus C. So 17.5 minus 9 would give you 8.5. 17.5 minus 11 give you 6.5. And then 17.5 minus 15 would give you 2.5. And then you put that in the calculator, and that gives you the area of a triangle. That's so neat. Like all you have are the sides. You don't even have any angles, and you can get the area of it. It's cool. It's cool, guys. I disagree, but I'm right. I love that you guys look up to check that yours is right. Like you all did it and then looked up here. I love that. That's exactly what I want you to do. All right, 49.164 square feet or square meters or square yards or whatever it is. All right, and the last thing we have to look at is bearings. They added bearings into the curriculum. So if anyone asks, we covered it, right? Okay, it actually is kind of cool though. So what you do is you start due north, which is up, and rotate clockwise. So you start due north and rotate clockwise. So it says A and B are 10 miles apart. The bearing of B from A is 60. B from A. So you start at A and you're trying to get to B. So here's how it looks. This is A. We're going to go due north. And then we're going to rotate clockwise, which is this way. You guys know what an analog clock is, right? I know your clocks are digital, but you know what the circular one looks like? Okay. So you're going to go clockwise 60 degrees. This is not to scale. I'm not going to get out a protractor and measure the angle, but it would be like somewhere about like that is your 60 degrees. So B would be over here, and they are 10 miles apart. So this distance is 10 miles. So that's how you start at point A and get to point B. It's actually kind of cool. Like, isn't that how they do it in the Navy or something? Like using bearings when you're on a ship or something? I don't know. It's kind of cool. Let's try it again. All right, A and B are 5 miles apart. The bearing of B from A is 290 degrees. So again, it's B from A. So you're going to start at A, due north, and we're going to rotate clockwise 290 degrees. So what I would do is I would think backwards from 360. Like, follow me on here. If you go the entire way around, that's 360. 360 minus 290. It's like you almost went the whole way around. So it's going to be like in a that way direction. Again, it's not to scale, but like good enough. But what's going to be that little angle in there? Like if you go around 290, what's left? Is that 70? 70 degrees. So B is going to be over here. And how far apart were they? 5. So they are 5 miles apart. That's like if you have a starting place, how you find where you ended up. So we're just going to do one problem with this, all right? So say that we covered it. Martha lives on one side of a river. Jim and Ted live on the other side. The river is 100 yards across. All right. Martha lives on this side. This is the river. Jim and Ted live on this side. I'm not putting points for them yet because we're going to get bearings to them. That's how we're going to find them. All right. So M for Martha, she's on that side of this is the water in between, okay? Can't draw a river, but that's the river. The river is 100 yards across. I'll put that in a minute. The bearing of Ted from Martha is 125. So if you draw this due north, actually, let me move the M out of the way. If you draw this due north from Martha, so like this is a 90-degree angle in here, we want to go 125 degrees to get to Jim. Or no, I'm sorry, to get to Ted, okay? So you would go 90 and then like a little bit further, 125 degrees would probably be about like that. Again, it's not to scale. I didn't get out a protractor, but Ted is going to be over here. Could we figure out what this angle is though? If we went 125 for the whole way, what's this little angle in here? You can use your calculator. What would you type in though? Yeah, 125 minus 90 is the 35. All right. So that's 35, which means that this angle is also 35. We've had that conversation when we did the elevation and depression. Do you remember the sky and the ground are parallel, alternate interior? Thank you for heads nodding. Okay. So that's where Ted is. All right. The bearing of Jim from Martha is 210. So starting at Martha, if you go 210, that's going to put you like in a this way direction. Again, it's not perfect. It's not to scale, but Jim is going to end up over here. And again, I want to figure out some of these angles. The whole way around would be 360. If you subtract 210, 360 minus 210, what's that going to give us? I don't want to mess that up trying to do it in my head. Is that 150 for this right here? All right. But if this is 90, what's left for this little guy? Is that 60? 150 minus 60. And if that's 60, then what else is 60?
The one on the left.
Yep. The one at the bottom. So I did 360 minus 210 to get what was left, and then 210 minus 90 to get what was left there. All right, now there's one piece of information in the problem that I didn't draw in there yet. Let's go back to that. What else do we know? 100 yards across. All right, so if I continue this down here, this is 100. The question is, how far apart are Jim and Ted? So what I'm going to do is call this A, and I'm going to call this B, and we're going to do two problems, and then what would we do with A and B? Combine, just add them together, all right? So let's look at this one. 60 is our point of view. That means 100 is the opposite. A is adjacent. For opposite and adjacent, that would be tangent. Good. Tangent 60 equals 100 over A. Hold on for a second because I just would rather set it all up and then we'll reach for the calculator at the end. Now let's look at Ted. 35 is your point of view. How would we set up that one? Yeah, also tangent, but it's tangent of 35 equals 100 over B. So we're going to type them in, store them, and then add them together. Ready? How would you type the first one? Yeah, this is like review from your quiz. 100 divided by tangent 60. I got 57 and a little bit. Store that as A. Bless you. Once you get it stored, you can clear it out. And then do the exact same thing with the other one. And again, once you store it, you can clear it out. And then you're going to do A plus B. And I did put units in this one, so we'll be thorough and put our units in. What were the units? Yards. Cool. So we covered bearings, and that's actually kind of cool, like to know how that works. You start due north, rotate clockwise, and then go however far it was you were supposed to go.